Good morning, everyone. So I'm really happy that we have Sonal today. I read her book recently. I was really very impressed. And I'm also happy this time Eleni will take the lead for this chat. But I still want to make a small introductions, like always. So, you know what? I was being part on some of the sustainability topics recently in some of the seminars and so, and everybody talks on each level, on the UN level, on the big governments level, or on a small communities. Everybody talks the sustainability topics, which are of course climate change, we all know, or resource problems, or most one of them for me, the important one as well, the inequalities across the world. And gender parity is still at the top of the agenda, even its sustainability, even its climate change, impacting everything on the environment. So at some point, it is good everybody is aware that gender parity or gender equality should be addressed. But it is also said, despite of lot of investments, efforts, we see the gender parity is still not where it should be. So I have some figures from latest McKinsey report, for example. The whole, when we look to the all economies, it is only 20% still women are represented. When we looked advanced economies, it's around 21%, and the rest is lower than 20. So it is really sad when you look to the also sustainable development goals of the UN. The gender parity is not on the required level. The good news is there are a lot of efforts, investments are going on. And businesses are playing an important role within this. And as we see these, not positive figures, we know there are also very good results, benchmarks, role models, good companies who are taking a lot of progress on this. And we are lucky because Pluxee is one of them. And globally, we have announced recently that the leadership team is around 45% globally, while in UK, the executive committee is 50% women representation. The senior leadership team is 49% women representation, and the full team is 60% women representation, where we should encourage more men in our organization. So we have also that kind of good progress. So I am really very proud to work for that company to see this progress going on. And I have to say, the culture, the people, the inclusivity is the key success factor in our current progress. It doesn't mean any day it can turn around. So it is very easy to change all these figures turn around. So we should keep really focusing on this. And the diversity and inclusion is not a social, actually imperative. It is more necessary for the really business success as well. And we have a lot of business cases for that. So it is really crucial that we keep going on this. So I just leave now to Eleni and Sonal. Welcome.
I read your book, and I think for me it's a great read, by the way, if you haven't read that book, because it's very inspiring. Making a change in your career, it takes a lot of guts. So I was just wondering if you can maybe talk us through of what drove that in you.
To make the change in the career, I was very tired of the current job that I was in the current role. And yes, it's a brave decision, but I wish I'd taken risks earlier and made changes earlier, because when you come out the other end, it's very fruitful. It took a long time to research and decide that I did want to change into technology. And when I say technology, it's not a hands-on technical role. As we all know, tech is here to stay. You can do this in any role. You can change careers in any industry or in anything. I did a lot of research. I knew that it was a really good, full of opportunities, really diverse, really needed, lots of more earning potential, obviously, which matters to everybody. I just decided that this was for me, and I wanted to be part of the exciting, dynamic industry. So I just decided to, rather than try and study along the side of my day job that I was currently in, I decided to just do all the homework and research and take a year out, and I studied because I absolutely knew nothing. I wasn't even very good at Excel, and even the basics weren't with me. I always thought tech was for people that were good at maths and science. And how wrong could I have been? Because tech touches all of our lives. There's a role there for everybody, male or female. We all have skills, transferable skills and experience. So I do believe that you can make that change. Yes, it's coming outside of your comfort zone, and it is important to do that anyway, wherever you are, whether you're early career, mid-career or experienced. I think it's important to continually learn and continually step outside of the comfort zone, because you learn more in those scenarios. So I think it's important to bear that in mind as you embark on the journey. It wasn't a smooth journey, and I didn't land where I am today just like that. There were a lot of twists and turns. So you do have to bear with it. If you believe in yourself and you've got that passion and commitment, your discipline will get you there.
I was certainly told before I went to university, you need to have maths to go into IT.
Yeah.
And I went into IT, and guess what? I didn't even use my maths, especially
Exactly.
as I'm not a data scientist. There was nothing. And it was more about, I think, especially as you're moving into a leadership role, it's more about empathy, which women, sorry to be stereotypical here, guys, but women are stronger at.
Definitely a barrier, and I think this is one of the reasons why I wrote the book. I wanted to create a lot more awareness and inspire people out there that it can be for me, it can be for anybody, male or female. You can make those changes. I think it's important to be more aware of the types of roles and the skills required. You all are good at something, so you have to be really familiar with what you enjoy, which is more important. It's no point going into a developer role or programming role or cybersecurity because it pays so well if you don't enjoy it. That you have to match your skills and your passion or interests with what you're doing in the day job. You're there every day. Let's just enjoy what we do and make it as pleasant as possible. So I did feel like some of the roles, when I took the course that I did, it gave me a very good A to Z of the whole industry, and I knew instantly programming wasn't for me. I struggled in the course. I passed that module. It was a master's and it was a conversion course. It gave me a really good in-depth understanding of all the different areas of the industry, and I knew instantly programming wasn't for me, but I did it, and it's very good to try. I would encourage anybody to at least do a small, short course just to be aware of it, because it is an important thing to know about, but you don't have to enjoy it. It's just good to try it once to see if it is for you. I do talk in depth in the book about my journey, and I describe how I found it quite laborious at points, but there were other areas that I really enjoyed. I like the people element. I do like the analysis, the people side, the project management side, so you're seeing a holistic view of everything going on, you're managing things, which is what I do in the day job now. So I just think you can bring all sorts of skills, and dealing with people is never easy, as we all know. Getting the best from people, coordinating all the different tasks that need to be done for your deliveries, and analysis as well is quite interesting to me.
And again, you're touching on points that it's applies to both sexes, right? It's not about people and working with people. It's actually one of the most difficult things with programming, and I think any in the IT team could testify to that. It either works or it doesn't. But people and working and getting the best out of, what do you mean when you say X is something we see quite a lot.
Yeah.
It's the most difficult part.
Yeah. For early careers or someone considering a move, I would say look at what is it you want to gain? Where do you want to be in 2 years, 5 years' time? And look at what your skills are at the moment and your experience, and talk to people. Get as much knowledge as you can. Ask questions. Be really curious. Always be willing to learn. It's a continuous learning journey. being in any career, you're always continuously updating different changes in your field or area of expertise. Do your research thoroughly, talk to those that are already in the profession, or, be open on along your journey. You may have XYZ in mind at the end, I want to be a manager, for example, but along the way, no career is a straight line. It's all squiggly, lots of twists and turns, so be open to different things that you may not expect to come along the way, and take those opportunities, because you learn along as you go. You learn so much from it as you go through. Don't know if that answered your question.
It does, but I think when you talk about the learnings, it's something we were talking earlier, that you learn more about when things don't go well.
Yeah, you learn more from when you fail. I think years ago I decided to make a change internally and joined a large program, the biggest program in the company. It was a regulatory program. I had a new team to work with, a new manager, and it was the worst mistake of my life, I'll be honest. The worst manager I could have worked with. The team was not helpful at all, no collaboration, and the most boring program anybody could have sat on. It was regulatory, and it didn't float my boat at all. I learnt so much from that. I would say that if you know something's not from you, to make changes quickly. Don't just sit on it. Seek advice. Always reach out to people. See where you can give back. Find the value of what you bring to the party, but also seek the advice from others that are more experienced than you. Find that mentor. It doesn't have to be formal mentoring. It can be informal. Ask the right questions. People love talking about themselves. They, book a meeting, book a quick 15, 20-minute meeting with people to ask the right questions and try to move yourself on again. It is important to make those changes if you're not comfortable. Usually you know in your gut anyway when something's good or bad for you. You know yourself better than anybody. So, and seek that help from your friends and closest colleagues. They know what you're good at. What does someone admire you for most in your whatever you may be doing in your day job? What do you get noticed for? And look at those skills to draw the parallels for whatever else it is you want to go into.
That's really good advice. I think one of the best advice I had is when one of my managers told me, don't focus on what are your gaps. So I was always very direct. I could understand data programming, but I was like, maybe my soft skills need a little bit of tweaking. But he said to me, use what you're strong at as a springboard. Yes. And ask for feedback.
Yes.
Don't worry about what you're not good at, because you're never going to be as good as somebody that's natural. Think about what you are, what are your strengths, work on your strengths, and then use that as a springboard. Yeah. But it's good to be able to be open, to say, okay, can you give me some honest feedback here? Get somebody for a coffee, right? And say, that didn't go very well. What could I have done differently? How could I have worked better with you? And be open to it. And I think 9 times out of 10, people will be, very, very glad to give you feedback, right? And get... Yeah.
We have to be receptive to the feedback as well. Be open, don't be defensive, just listen, even if you don't agree. Sometimes you hear your manager say some feedback which you may not really want to hear, but be open to it and then reflect on it later on. I think I've always found that helps. At the time you can't react, and as women we're very good on the emotional intelligence side. We do pick up on things. When you're in a meeting, for example, you'll pick up straight away probably that someone's not happy in the room or whatever. But it is important to just reflect in your own time and be quite grounded about it. I always think it's important to be honest to yourself, because you're just failing yourself if not. Don't fool yourself into something. Do the right thing is what I'd say. I think sometimes, for example, on social media, you see people's lives being perfect, but actually underneath, you're like a duck in a pond. Your feet are swimming, moving like mad underneath. So you work really hard and nobody sees that side. So people like to gloss over all of that hard work and see only the positives. So don't compare yourself to others. It's your own race. It's your own career, your own, goals, if you like. So think about what you can do in your sphere of influence. So for personal branding, I would say, really, said it earlier, be clear on what you're good at, what your skills are. Be really clear what you want from your own branding, because nobody will listen to what you're saying your brand is. It's what other people are saying about you. So think about that. What do you get most admired for when you're out there? What do people compliment you on? And then with that, build on it. See, it all matters, to be fair. It's your communication, it's your body language, it's everything. You probably formed opinions with seeing me in the first 30 seconds. We as humans, we form opinions really quickly when we meet somebody. We have our own biases, but you have to think outside of that, because everybody has got something valuable to bring to the party. You all have a gift, you all have skills. So you want to hone in on that more, do what you love and what you enjoy. And it's not just about your communication physically or verbally, it's also your online presence is really important these days. I mean, when you go for a job interview, who doesn't look at LinkedIn? People are looking at you before you've even walked through that door for that interview. So please make your platforms consistent and professional. So on LinkedIn and Instagram, mine are all consistent. They're all very similar. Be authentic. Stay as you. Don't try and be somebody else, because everybody sees through that straight away. Learn from people you admire as well when it comes to branding. Who's really getting their message out there? Who's doing a consistent delivery? What do you like about them? What can you take from that you build in to yourself? Not everybody's going to be the same as you, so you obviously want to learn from someone you admire and things that you can do within your own sphere of influence. I hope that helps.
We also need to think about how we build male allies as well, isn't it?
Yes, yeah. I think with male allyship, I mean, I think this is really powerful. They can really be a real catalyst in the room for you. So I think it's a two-way conversation. I think when males, I mean, being International Women's Day, I suppose I'm allowed to say this, you get together and you may talk about the football after a weekend, but think of who's in the room about inclusivity. Some of the females may not understand football. Just ask the polite question, do you follow any sport? Include them in the conversations. It's the old going to pub after work or watching a match together after work, but can you incorporate something in the lunch times? Be open and be aware of who's there with you, and try to have those conversations to understand them more as well. And vice versa, as females, we need to speak up a lot more as well about what we want to see, what we like. And if you're in a meeting, and I've worked in very male-dominated industries, and it's really hard to be heard. If you're in a meeting and you're not being heard, you need to just stop for a minute and ask that question and make them know that you're there. Just ask a question if you haven't got any value add to say or input to say in the meeting, but make sure you are heard and put your points across. And for the males to also reciprocate, be mindful of who's there. There are different needs of different people, so try to learn about your counterparts and your peers and seniors that you work with, male or female. Really get to know what drives them, get to know them, so that when you're doing some work with them, or if you're in a meeting or a public forum, you're not forgetting people and leaving them behind. Because I think it's really important to take people with you when you're on that journey. You don't want to leave people behind, because people remember you for how you make them feel more than anything. It's not what's said, it's how they feel afterwards. So that comes into your personal branding as well. Remaining authentic and how you make people feel is very important. It's always remembered long. I remember in my early career, one manager, for example, said to me, "Oh, so now you aim too high." I was in his office because I was wanting to ask for more opportunities. I was bored and I wanted to do more. And when he said that, he lost me in a minute. I just thought, I need to leave. This is not going to go anywhere. So don't ever forget that, what you say and how you make people feel it stays with people for long afterwards as well.
I was thinking when you said about the meetings, how many meetings have you guys been where as women we can't really say, oh, what did you mean by this? Or when you talked about, if I use machine learning, for example, does everybody understand? We make assumptions, but does everybody understand what that means? And then what does it mean in your job? And sometimes we're scared of saying, I'm sorry, I didn't understand that, or can you explain it? It could be the same for any other part of the organization. I know when I first came, there was so many acronyms in this organization, even though Pluxee is an organization that's very inclusive. But I still felt like that was my natural to say, oh, I'm not quite sure what that means. I've never heard that term before. So I really had to push myself to say, what did you mean by that? Did you mean X? And it was, for me, it was an eye-opener, because I thought I was fairly confident. I've been doing this job for a while, but I still felt in a new environment, should I be asking this?
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, I think it's always important to ask lots of questions, and I mean, technology industry is full of acronyms, and that was one objective, to make it really simple so that everybody could learn a little bit from the book. There's one chapter just explaining the emerging technologies like crypto, blockchain, AI, etc., just to have a little bit of knowledge for everybody and share that out there. If you make it simple, then everybody can join in and understand what's going on. I don't think there's a necessity, I can't say it, to make things more complex than they are. And I think within the tech space or any industry, people sometimes make things more complex than they need to be. There's nothing like being able to articulate something really simply so a 5-year-old can understand it. I think it's important to bear that in mind in whatever area of work you're in. And that way you include people more as well. So with technology as the example, there's only, depending which report you read or which survey, I'm looking at the most optimistic one. They are saying it's only 26% of females in the industry currently, and that is really poor. And if you're looking at women of colour or ethnic minorities, it's like 0.5%, so there's so much work to be done.
Yeah, and it starts from the schools. I think when I went to university, it was 50-50 pretty much women. And then they dropped within the first year. Yeah. We were down to 3 women. And by the time I graduated, I was the only one that graduated. And you're just thinking about why is that? I didn't particularly feel that there was a bias from my professors, but it just drops off. So we need to encourage, people in the school. I know we've got a great partnership in Pluxee with the school, and encourage people to come into IT, whatever form that takes.
I think so. Early careers are really important. I think mid-careers are just as important, because anyone can make that transition and change. It is important to talk about it and be out there with it.
Yeah, and encourage. I know we encourage quite a lot of movement in this organization. It's actually one of the very few organizations where we encourage in between departments and globally as well. That doesn't happen a lot.
That's good.
Because we tend to be too focused in, you must have a technology degree, you must understand ABC, you must have done this job. Well, if I've done this job for 5 years, why would I want to do it again?
Exactly.
It doesn't make sense. So it's that diversity of thinking, and that needs to apply across everything.
Bill Gates didn't have a degree, and look where he got. So you don't need a degree to be in technology, and there's always a way. I think it's important to book those coffee meetings or virtual coffee meetings with your colleagues in other areas outside of where you work, and everyone loves to talk about themselves, I'm sure. Spend 15 minutes just asking lots of questions and finding out a lot more about what they do in their role day to day. Just get out there and do that. If there's one piece of advice you should learn, and it helps you in your day job, it helps you make some decisions as well if you want to learn something new, for example. And it even helps you network, because you may hear about opportunities that are coming up that you wouldn't have known about if you hadn't have spoken to somebody. When I made the transition, I made the career change into technology. Once I came out of that year-long study, the industry went completely flopped. It went right down, especially in the IT space. I couldn't have been more wrong. It was awful. There were no jobs. It was really, really tough period. So I just thought, I'll be damned if I go back to my old career, because the whole idea was to take the year out and swim into something new. It didn't happen. So what I did is I just chose to do a little bit of voluntary work and in the local hospital's IT department, and I learnt so much. I was on the help desk. I didn't have a clue. I was crawling under desks helping repair PCs when they'd gone wrong. Something so far removed from the office job I'd done before, and it was the greatest learning, and it opened up pathways and avenues for my next opportunity. I did a bit of work for them there, and then I moved on from that experience. I gained something else, and it wasn't quite the role I wanted to go into, but I took it, and you have to be open as well at the time. So I was quite happy to be able to take it. And I also did some teaching in the university alongside it to sort of bottom out the not having the transition that I'd anticipated. But I did get there in the end. And I think with your networking, your constant being on it all the time, just looking and trying, there's a chapter in the book about common roles, and I do talk about one lady that wanted to transition into, she'd studied IT and wanted to work in it, and she couldn't get a job for years, and she worked in retail, which is really sad, but in the end she actually did find the job that she was looking for. So I do think it always happens for you at the right time. There's a good period for everybody, no matter how down it is. You have to make your circle of friends and colleagues very tight, and keep asking, giving them support when they need it, but also reciprocating that support when you need it. That's also important. Your network is so important.
Well, when I started as a developer, and I thought, that's the best thing ever. I'll never want to change a job. I just was quite happy. And then I was pushed into doing a project management. And they told me, well, you're technical, you can figure that out. Wow, the learning curve on that. All of a sudden, I had to talk to people, which I'm an introvert, so it was not my thing. I had to understand what they were saying, and then being open when they said, actually, this is not good. This is not good enough, to not take it personally. So I went and did a psychology degree with Open University, just to understand a little bit about people. For me, it was a real blocker. And that, and being the ability, I think, to say, don't take things personally, and move, understand people, understand where they're coming from, what problem do they have. So one of the things, very formulaic, but I would sit down with somebody and say, what keeps you up at night? What can I do to make your life different? Like, what can I do to change it? And I think that was, for me, the way of getting with people and really starting to build what you were saying about the network, starting building relationships. I mean, it was genuine. I really did want to make a difference, and I wanted to make their life easier. But just sitting at my desk in my corner, that was never going to happen. So for me, that was the biggest mind shift. No, it wasn't actually. It was I actually loved coding. It was that was my thing. But it was just, I think it naturally happened, and then I thought, you know what, I can do better than that. I can be a bit clearer on the vision. I can understand. I started to see what I'm doing has got a difference in the business. What is the business outcome? And being able to link that, it's what was exciting, because it wasn't a straight road. So I think that's how I developed. It wasn't a linear, like you said before. It wasn't a straight up road, and I don't think it should be. I think you need to spend time around the organization, understand, what are you trying to do with IT? Why are we here? And really ask yourself that question. And then you're right, it naturally happens, and you find the right home.
I think it's fine if someone's happy in their role and they're, excelling and they're fulfilled with that. But if they do want more, I think, taking the first step is always the hardest. You have to come out of your comfort zone. You have to ask the questions and look at someone maybe 2-3 steps ahead of you and look at what they're doing, have a chat with them, look at what you like about them and how did they do it, and learn from others. That will also help you to give you the confidence to be able to ask those questions and come out of that comfort zone. I think it is the hardest thing to do it and just to start. But once you take those first few steps, everything, it's like a snowball effect. Things will happen. But the fear sometimes holds us back so badly. We're in our own heads too much sometimes. And I think mentoring can help with that. It doesn't have to be a formal mentor. It can be indirect. It could be a leader you go to seek a little bit of direction and help. Coaching helps as well. And I just feel like people should absolutely embrace all of this to help themselves get out of the rut, as it were. If you don't try, you never know. If you don't take risks, which is something I regret in the early career, I should have taken a lot more risks. But when you're young, you're naive, you're not confident, you learn as you go, and with experience it all happens. But I think anybody can do it. It's just in your own mindset. You have to really be focused and disciplined and keep that goal in mind. Be really on it all the time. I would say no one can do it on their own. The top athletes have their coaches. Top famous people have people around them to get. They don't get there where they are alone. I'll guarantee you that. I've had formal coaching from some celebrities, and it's an eye opener. You have to seek the help, but also give back. Don't forget when going up the ladder. Never forget those that you were peers with. Always help others along the way. And I think, being International Women's Day, I will say as females, I don't think we always do that in the best way. We have to work together as females, not against each other, or males for that matter. Take people with you and always give back. Really remember that. Give back wherever you are. I do a lot of free work as well. I just think it's important to do that too.
I think I would say pick up something that nobody else wants to do. Because usually it's, and not be concentrated, oh, this is not my job. I think for me, it's probably one of my pet hates if somebody tells me that's not my job. We're all working in the same organization. We won't go have the same goal. So pick up something nobody wants to do and work at that. And I think what Sonal is saying, also be kind. You know, as you go and you meet people that you don't know when you're going to meet them again. I mean, I have relationships with people I worked 20 years ago. And it's back into how that you make them feel. And I think being kind and supportive of each other, it's what sustains, regardless of roles, regardless of jobs or targets or anything else.
I think it's a combination of things. I think it's definitely the early formative years, right from primary school, younger than primary school upwards. I think the government has got lots of programs in place and encouragement in place, but I think a lot more needs to be done at the grassroots younger level so that people grow up with it and get comfortable and more familiar with what's involved. But I also think there's a big gap with the mid layer, middle layer of experience and experienced people in the industries as well. So it's a bottom up, top down approach. I think that all around there's lots that we could be doing. And I think people can't be what they can't see. So when you don't see enough females, they're not going to join. They all think, like I thought, that, oh, I have to be excellent at maths or science to be able to be a part of it. To just be more aware of what is available to people. And the government people are crying out in corporates and everywhere for the lack of skills in technology. We read about it in the papers all the time. So being really aware of what's in demand and where you can fit those skills for those that are already in work or early careers that want to make a transition. And I feel for those in early careers or leaving college, university, take those apprenticeships, take the practical experience. It's so important, and do voluntary work as well. It really helps it. You'll be ahead of the competition if you're younger or, looking for a change, because you can put that on your CV. So I do think there's a lot of things that could be done better, more investment as well. At universities, I do hear that a lot of it's male dominated, and when females can't see anyone like themselves, they're 8 times out of 10 they will drop out, and it's really sad to see that, because I think the UK could be so far ahead in their economy with the tech industry in general. And diversity of thought's a big one for me. Us women can bring so much more when they're developing these applications with the behind the scenes on developments. A lot of things aren't thought about. I think years ago, for example, when people were doing seatbelt development for cars, they were all aimed at the middle-aged males, white males, and women would sit there holding the seatbelt because it wouldn't have fit fit us at the time. So it wasn't thought about as a diverse thing. So it's the same in technology. We're missing that human element. We need a diversity of thought. I don't think there's ever enough done, to be honest. I think that a lot more investment, a lot more programs could be stood up, and I think it's where we're at in the economy in general probably. I think there's a lot of good volunteering opportunities, loads of good. STEMETS is really good for young girls. They do a lot of training. You can look them up online. It's excellent. And like them, there's many other places that offer conferences and free training and hackathons and things. All of these things, and meetup groups, all of these things are out there. It's just a case of looking for them and being part of them. I think it's important to keep playing the message back, keep showing the outcomes and the value from people attending these things and where they go to, and showcasing this. So I agree with you that there is a lot more that can be done, but we have to work with what we've got at the moment. And I think schools and colleges, they struggle anyway at the best of times. We haven't got enough skills to go out there and teach it, but we do a lot of community days and volunteering. Getting people in as apprentices as well helps. They shadow people, job shadow. All of that would help in corporates and industry.
Right, I work with a school that is local to me, and we did a program about being digital. And what does that mean? And really open it. And it was the great time because it was just before the pandemic hit. And then you see all these kids, little kids, being now very comfortable with their little Chromebooks. They're doing all their classes from there. It's embedded in the curriculum. So for them, they don't know any different. It's not an IT lesson as it used to be. It's this is part of it now. Being digital is part of us. So I think this is great. And there's a lot of schools that they started picking this up. So I can see that changing. I think the other thing is to prepare, I think, mentally for us to say it's not easy. Not everybody will have that mindset to work in tech, but there's so much diversity. In the government, for example, being doing user research and having user experience, there's a lot of female talent there, but they're not coders. But it's just showing that plethora of professions that you can do in technology, and it's not just about writing code, although obviously it's a significant part.
The role I had, I worked in a building society back in the day, and I'd worked my way up to assistant manager level, and I was very bored in the mundane work that I was doing. What stopped me from taking the risk was probably self-confidence in that, the belief in myself. We all go through that imposter syndrome. It's like, how can I do this and how can I do that? But you have to question those thoughts and actually do something about it, take the action, because you never move forward without taking actions. I'm a strong believer in obviously networking and talking to lots of people. I think the support I gave and received has been instrumental in successfully transitioning into a different career.
And there is that thing, if I should add, is fake it until you make it.
Yes.
And it's really sort of acting and doing those in the volunteering or picking up things that nobody else wants to do, or shadowing and putting yourself out there. Nobody else will do it for you. Yes. You have to take control of your career.
Yeah, no one is going to knock your door for any promotion or anything. You have to make that happen. It's in your gift, whatever you're doing, and also helping those up with you, alongside you, because you don't know who you come across. It's such a small world. We said it earlier. You just don't know who you come across in the future. I think depending on your interests, there's always different online. You can always research, who's doing what you want to do. You contact them on LinkedIn. You can have chats with them, and within where you work, always have the virtual coffees or meetups with people. Start building your contacts list of who you really think that you'd love to know more about and admire them. also through friends and family, always have those conversations. Be open about your goals and what you're wanting to achieve, because if you don't share it, no one knows, and they may actually reach out to you. I've had someone recently, 3 years ago I met him and I'd forgotten about him, and he's seen me online and he's reached out to do something joint with him, which was amazing, because I just didn't ever think that I'd ever be wanting to work with him or have that opportunity. So it's amazing how people do remember you as well. So get those chats in, meet people, go to events that are relevant to your industry that you want to know more about and learn. Conferences are a great way to meet people. Always over the lunches or coffees or whatever. It's a great way of meeting different people. Be open about your own, your objectives or goals, and have your 30-second, 1-minute elevator pitch ready. It's good to make it really short and succinct about what you want to share with people, and be open to give back first. It's not all about what you can get from them in networking. You first reaching out, sharing what value you can give to somebody, whether it's in your day job and you want to do a great job for them, or whether it's general networking. What is it that you have in common that you may be able to reach out and put a contact in place for them if they're looking for someone to do something with, for example. That's another really big tip I'd say is just, reaching out to them and giving back, and then later on things come back to you as well. And even if they don't, it doesn't matter. You've got yourself known out there. Your name is there. You might be in one of their list of contacts. It's amazing how many opportunities come about just from speaking to people and being open about what you're doing, what you're working on, what's of interest to them, what may be relevant to them. Hope that answers your question.
Yeah, I would add to it as well. If you're going to a conference, find out who else is going, and then ask, do your research and say, okay, I want to know 3 things about you, and ask them. Like you said before, people like talking about themselves, but they're also going to they remember you for taking the time and finding out about their company, about what they've done, or what they could share. But again, being kind and remembering, paying it forward in a way. What can I do to help you? That goes a long way.
I think you have to question the whoever it is that's involved. Ask the questions like, do you think that was correct? Do you think that was the right thing to say? Always have a quiet word with somebody afterwards, after it's happened, to make your points known. Through questioning, you make that realization awaken within them, hopefully, and they may not do it again. And if they do it again, you call it out again. I think it's always there, and unfortunately or fortunately, it is something that we do have to tackle a lot along our journeys.
I've had it both sides. One is, if you have an accent, you're clearly not very bright. It's just education. But I think I've had a situation where I've had my male colleagues getting promoted into a more senior developer quicker, and that's because they were going down the pub. There's no way I can deal with that. So I had to do a lot more work taking on extra projects to show actually, yes, I don't go down the pub with you, but you just have to go the extra step, and you have to sometimes saying it's not personal. Another woman would be the same, and how do I bridge that gap? But sometimes actually saying, what can I do differently here? We're obviously not seeing eye to eye, or I think I'm here, but you're thinking I'm not quite there. What do I need to bridge the gap? And having that open conversation, it makes them think, but also it gives you some feedback as well.
I think just to add on that, there is some known stats that when applying for jobs or promotions, the men will go for it even if it's 6 out of 10 on the job description, and us women will want 8 out of 10 or 9 out of 10 before we even apply. I just think it's a case of putting yourself out there, going through the interview and learning from it. Even if you're not ready, just go for it. I think we have to push ourselves a lot more, be a lot more assertive about it. And I think there's plenty about the biases where it is a sad situation to be in, but we constantly have to keep going back through it. It's a difficult one, and I think both ways, males to be more aware as well of other people's requirements too, to consider the different scenarios. It's not that you have to have one, but it is these days the way it's going. A lot of opportunities are there, and I feel people are missing them if they're not on LinkedIn. It's a massive global platform full of opportunities, not just for jobs, but there's a lot more on there. You learn of networking events, you learn of different industry events on there. You follow certain people within your own area of expertise or industry, and you learn so much. So, and you meet different people. They could be doing the same role as you in a completely different company. You can have those informal chats, if you like, virtually. So I do. There is a lot of value on there, but I appreciate it's not everybody's cup of tea having to post regularly, and you feel conscious at first of not, being out there. I used to hate it at first. I'll be honest. It wasn't comfortable doing live videos or doing a post out there. But soon it just becomes like breathing. It's so automatic, it's so normal that I can't be without it now, to be honest. But I just think it's being brave and putting yourself out there. No one's going to judge you. We are more critical of ourselves than anything. So, just start off with a very small group with your friends, with some friendly faces, and try it out to see what you think.
I think I would add that you're the author of your own story. So it's probably the questions you have or the challenges you have, a lot of other people will have it regardless of where they're born or female or male. But sometimes you just don't have the ways to put it up there. Seeing somebody that is not a very refined even article, it's an authentic story of you. People are more interested in that.
That's a really good question. It's not always easy. Believe me, I have my down days. Everybody has their days where you want to give up. I think you have to have your end goal in mind, and always keep that in mind and break it down to your regular tasks underneath it. But if you visualize and picture your end goal, it keeps you motivated. You get some accountability partners in a close friend or work colleague to keep you accountable to meet those goals, and you'll get closer take those steps to get closer to your goals as well. We're all human. We all have our good days and bad days. So those accountability partner can keep you accountable for keeping on track, if you like. Be around those positive, motivating people. So often, some of these people can be your immediate family members maybe, but if they don't share the same vision as you, then don't share it with them. Just share it with people that understand your vision and your mission in life to keep you going. You only have one life and one chance, so just give it what you've got.
I'd say it is hard to keep yourself motivated, especially when you have obstacles. But you need to have that North Star, and knowing that it's not just one way of getting there. There's different paths that you can take. But I always think, when I'm on my deathbed and I look back, what would I like to be known for? What I would like to have achieved? And for me, that's what's working the best.
I think when I changed careers, there were a lot of people that said to me, you should be getting married and having children, not changing a career. And I just said to them, if you saw the talent at that time, I was running in the opposite direction. No, serious note. I think that people will always judge you, but you only know in yourself what you want to achieve. And that's your objective, your goals, your dreams. So don't let anybody else take you down. Keep focused on it. It's really important, and go to those that will support you. I just think you shouldn't be deterred. There's too many times when I hear people say, "Oh, how did you write that book?" I've always wanted to write a book, but I think everyone can do it. Anyone can achieve what they want to achieve. You really do have to get that support in place, and your clear vision, your clear goals in line before you set out. So don't ever get demotivated. It's sad when I see people thinking that they can do something and they haven't bothered trying. You can try and learn from your failures, and that's the best place to be honest.